Welcome back. So, let me ask you a question. We're going to talk about upgradable vocabulary. Do you remember the definition of upgradable vocabulary from the introduction? What does it mean? What is upgradable vocabulary? So, it's a word or an expression that can be replaced, can be changed for a higher level or more specific alternative word. For example, instead of maybe the word bad, we could say the word terrible or frightful or awful or atrocious. So let's do a little example. We have a little girl here who's agreed to help us with this part of the course. Thank you, little girl. So the little girl has said, I really love unicorns because they're so pretty and they can fly. All right. So my question for you, how could this little girl upgrade the highlighted vocabulary in green? And we can upgrade the grammar, but we're going to focus on that later in section 3 of the course. For now, just think about the vocabulary. All right. Pause the video, look at those words in green and think, what are some upgrades for them? Have a try now. Okay, let's take a look. So she said, I really love unicorns because they're so pretty and they can fly. So some possible answers, she could change really love to maybe a more formal structure like I'm very keen on or I am obsessed with. And so pretty could be nominalized. Remember, we've already talked about that. They could say that they exhibit remarkable beauty. Those unicorns exhibit remarkable beauty. Exhibit means to show or to have. And beauty is like the noun of beautiful. Remarkable means like, oh, amazing. Again, we could choose a more emphatic option to give it more feeling, like they are dazzlingly beautiful. So dazzling is like, oh, you almost can't look because they're so beautiful. And then can, quite often in formal English, will say be able to, rather than can. Can is maybe more towards the informal. It's not very, very informal, but if we want to be more formal and talk in a more business English way, more of an exam way, we might use are able to or is able to. So those are some possibilities, and here's how it would look. So, I'm very keen on unicorns because they exhibit remarkable beauty and they are able to fly. So that's what would happen if the little girl upgraded her vocabulary. But should the little girl upgrade her vocabulary? What do you think? How do you feel when you read that sentence? I am very keen on unicorns because they exhibit remarkable beauty and they are able to fly. How does that make you feel? So to me, because it's a little girl talking, you'd probably expect her not to use such advanced vocabulary. It's a little strange. So should she upgrade all of those words? Probably not. Her new sentence was grammatical, it was correct, and it was formal, but it didn't sound natural, and that's a super important point. So we wouldn't expect a little girl to use, they exhibit remarkable beauty. It would be weird. It doesn't sound natural. So imagine in your language the same situation. How would that be if a child started to use like scientific language? It would be kind of strange, right? So why is this important for us? Because in the TOEIC exam, we have to focus on that same question. We want to show our good vocabulary. We want to show the examiner that we have high-level vocabulary and high-level grammar, but we want to avoid seeming artificial, like not real, or seeming weird, like it's an alien talking. All right? So the important thing is to find the balance. We don't try to upgrade every word or every sentence. it's good to have a mix, some normal vocabulary and some higher vocabulary. So, to achieve a natural sounding high level English, we make well considered upgrades. So, upgrades that we've thought about and that we're careful about in the appropriate parts of the exam. So, we use our vocabulary in the right place at the right time. So let's take a look at some situations when you might consider upgrading your language. And let's think if it's a good idea to do that or not. So, which of these upgrades do you think would be appropriate? Which ones are a good idea and which ones are a bad idea? So let's take a look. So, first one, using more emphatic synonyms. Remember, synonyms means words with the same meaning. Big and large, for example. Emphatic means they give it more feeling. Okay? So, for example, change or overhaul. Change could be a big or a small change. Overhaul gives the feeling of a total change, changing everything. So, the next one, nouns to verbs. For example, change the word admission into the word admit. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Changing general words to specific words. For example, changing stuff into products. Good or bad? Germanic words into Latin words. For example, the word answer into the word response. Common terms, for example, bus, into words that you invent, like multi-transportation vehicle. I enjoy that one. Gradable to ungradable adjectives, happy over to delighted. And more common words to more unusual words, crucial being a bit more common, or maybe a word like important, over to indispensable, a less common word. Okay, so those are some different choices, but what I want you to do now is look at each of them one by one and decide, is this a good idea in the TOEIC exam or is it not a good idea? Okay, pause the video and try now. Okay, let's take a look at some answers. So first of all, when you see it in green, it means good idea. So using more emphatic synonyms, change to overhaul, giving like a stronger feeling or a more specific feeling is good. Nouns to verbs, no. Remember, it should be the other way round. We often change verbs into nouns. So instead of saying, when he admitted, the verb, you could say, his admission, the noun, and it sounds more formal. So verbs to nouns, good. Nouns to verbs, usually not so good. Next, general words to specific ones. And we know this is going to be a good idea. Remember, we looked at that before. So if we're talking in a very general, very vague way, that's not that good. It's much better to talk in a specific way. Next, Germanic words to Latin ones. Now, we're going to talk more about this later, but this is a good idea. So generally in English, English is a mix of, like in the history of the language, of words that come from more Germanic languages like German and like Dutch and things like that, with Latin countries like Spain and Italy and France. So generally speaking, the Latin words are going to be a bit longer and they sound more formal, whereas the Germanic words are often a little shorter and they sound less formal. They're more like daily language, okay? But more about that later. Common terms to invented terms. So no, don't invent your own words. It's quite cool to invent your own words in daily life. I do it all the time, like mixing different words together and things like that. But in the exam, not a good idea, All right. So things like bus. There's no way to upgrade the word bus. We just say bus. We don't say multi-transportation vehicle. It's hard even to say. And then gradable to ungradable adjectives. Yes, we are going to do this. So saying a simple word like happy and then making it delighted. That's a higher level, more advanced piece of vocabulary. And finally, the more common words to more unusual ones. Yes, to a point. So like the little girl, we have to choose the right situation. But changing things like important or crucial into indispensable can make our language seem more formal and be better for the TOEIC exam and also better for business English in general.